Thank you for joining us on Sheridan County Ag Update. Today, I have with me John Graves, the Director of Conservation from the Sheridan Community Land Trust. Before we get started, I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors, Heartland Kubota and Truebill Builders. John, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. So let's talk some community land trust stuff and conservation and lots of exciting things going on for you guys.
Oh yeah, lots of stuff always. I've only been in the role at SCLT for about going on 5 months now, but it's been a great 5 months. It's been awesome. We recently purchased the old NSI property, part of it out there, and we have a lot of great plans going on out there. Some exciting things we're going to do. Some of it's going to be about conservation. Some of it's going to be surrounding kind of the openness of it and creating some public trails out there. So we're really excited. We're going to be using that space just kind of as a general educational tool for the public so they can learn more about some of the conservation practices that we do in the community around Sheridan with a lot of the ranchers and the landowners. So we're super excited, and it's going to be great out there.
Good. Well, I'm glad that property, being a neighbor to it, I'm glad that property is being used in a positive way. It had such a negative connotation for so long that it's great. And I think that the other neighbors would say that it's great that there's positive going on out there.
For sure. It's just awesome out there. Plus it's such a unique space, there's so much wildlife out there. Just that creek going through, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. For the amount of subdivisions that have come in and the amount of homes out there still is a lot of wildlife. I mean, we joke all the time that not only do we feed the cows, but we also help feed the deer. So if you're shooting anything out there, enjoy that good alfalfa.
Yeah, right.
So I know that one of the things that you guys do is work with landowners around the area with your trail easements, conservation easements. Old school ranchers don't really like the word easement.
Yeah.
My dad was one of those, so I know. So let's talk about how those things that you guys do to get away from that stigma of it being a bad thing.
Conservation easements are great for some people, but they're not right for everybody. And for those out there that don't really know what a conservation easement is, it basically says that how the land is now is how it's going to be forever. That's the core of what a conservation easement is. It's to protect the land. With that, though, at SCLT, we really look at a conservation easement as we want to write it as least restrictive as possible. And so a conservation easement allows a potential for a landowner to take a tax benefit or maybe even to pull some money out of their land that they can use to expand their operation, buy more land or whatever. And so that's what's really great about a conservation easement. Plus, it really emphasizes protecting the land, which is, so critical to us out here. And
we're not making any more land.
That's right.
What there is what you got.
That's right. Very, very true. And so, if we can protect it, keep it in productive agriculture, that's what our focus is we want to allow these landowners to keep their ranches in that productive agriculture, whatever it is, whether they're farming, raising cattle, anything like that. We want them to be able to still do that. And through these conservation easements, we're allowing them to do that with certain stipulations in that conservation easement deed. But overall, it's a great thing for the landowner and for preserving their ranch.
Well, and it keeps it as a green space for the future.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't allow for the expansion of homes, and not that you don't want progress, but you also want to preserve what you got.
For sure, yeah. Kind of the biggest restriction that is placed on the land under conservation easement is it does not allow for subdividing of that parcel. And so that's kind of the biggest thing that goes in with a conservation easement. There are also some stipulations about buildings, but how a deed is written, and we work with the landowner to ensure that their wishes are met in that conservation deed. But it's another tool. Some people use it for preserving their ranch for their kids. That comes up. Not everybody faces issues with inheritance and passing on the ranch to future generations, but a conservation easement can help with that and make things a little less sticky, and it can be a good solution for some people.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was just going to ask how that worked going on, if you're passing it to the next generation, or if that generation says, we don't want it, we want to sell it, or maybe we just donate the whole thing. to a group as yourself. How, how does that work?
So the conservation easement, it's just like water rights. It rides with the land forever. They cannot be taken off the land. The ownership of the land always remains with the landowner. SCLT, we are a holder of the conservation easement deed, but the land management decisions remain with the landowner. And so they can always sell the land or, pass it on to children, grandchildren, or anything like that.
And I think probably a great example of that, and I'm not sure what the trail's called, but I know it's part of the old PK Ranch and the Roberts family, who has worked with you guys and opened that trail up and let people, but they still have cattle. And I know if you follow the Facebook page, which I do, there's times that you're like, nope, cows and calves are out there, no dogs. We're shutting the trail down for a few months to allow that. And I think most people are probably pretty respectful of that, understanding it's still a working ranch. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And so it's great. We do have that trail easement that goes through there. It's a public trail easement. And with the Roberts family that owns the land, they are so gracious in allowing SCLT to maintain those trails and allow the public to use them. And it's just so special that the public can be on that ranch. It has great views, as you know, of the city, of the mountains. It's awesome out there. And so, but with that, though, you bring up a good point. Conservation easements do not mean that the land is now public. That's a whole separate thing. And some people think that if a conservation easement is placed on a parcel of land, it's now public land, and that's not true. The land is still private. The daily decision making is still done by the landowners, and that's the way we want to keep it.
Well, and I think that's really important to the landowners. I mean, I know that my dad wouldn't have been open to it, but, and again, old school rancher, but as things change and the community grows, I think that there's probably going to be more people who want to continue the green space, but maybe not want to be in the ranching business.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great as with anything, people age and they might stop ranching, but they still want to protect that land and keep it for ranching for future generations. And a conservation easement is a great way to go about that, to ensure that land never gets subdivided, doesn't get broken down, doesn't turn into a subdivision of homes. And, that wildness and that open space is now taken away from all of us to view and from the wildlife to enjoy.
Well, and I was just going to say, we live in a part of the country where we get to enjoy the wildlife.
Yeah.
Whether you're a hunting enthusiast or you're just a photographer who loves to go take pictures, or you just like having them around your property, we're so fortunate that we still get a lot of that.
For sure.
Even in town, I know. The other day, I guess this was a few weeks ago, we were out at the office there at the Big Goose Natural Area, and Jared, who's in charge of all of our trails, he looked out the window and there was 3 bobcats just middle of the day, just walking by the window. And it's like, man, that's so cool and special, and as close to town as we are, just be able to see that wildlife. It's really usually elusive and doesn't get out very much. It was really cool to see.
Quality Kubota machinery and customer care from the heart. Proudly serving Sheridan and the surrounding areas since 1996. Go online to heartlandkubota.com or stop by Heartland Kubota, 2450 Heartland Drive.
I've referred to my dad a few times. A lot of people knew him. He was here for a lot of years. And I think he was somewhat ahead of his time for a lot of ranchers, because he was not the guy that went out and shot every coyote or a fox. I mean, my dad was the guy. We had a fox that had her den on our place. And every year my dad's like, no, just let him play. He'd go watch him. And he's like, they're not hurting anything. They're just fine. And I've tried to carry that on because I think they're cute, but as long as they're not hurting anything,
for sure,
leave them alone.
Yeah. Let them be, let the wildlife just be there.
Came and moved in on their land. Yeah. They didn't move, that's what I always think. We put stuff on their place.
And that's part of what we want to show with the Big Goose Natural Area out where our offices are, is that productive agriculture and wildlife and even public access with the trails we're planning, they can all coexist and all be successful. And so, out there at the Big Goose, we are still going to be having it grazed by a lessee for cattle production. So it's going to be great. We're still going to maintain that land out there. And, we really, really emphasize that this is an agricultural community and we want to keep it that way. And we want to respect the wildlife at the same time. And so it's, we can all coexist out here when done right.
Well, and what a great place, like we said, to have a spot for you guys to have an educational place, especially for the schools, the youth, but maybe families too. You know, new families that moved to town maybe haven't come from a city, and this is all new to them, and they wanted to come here because of that. What a great opportunity to learn.
For sure, it's gonna be fantastic. You know, we're gonna do so many nature hikes out there, bird watching. You have so many birds; it's awesome out there. The bald eagles have been out there the last few weeks, just screeching every morning and doing everything. It's been awesome to see. You know, and just we're gonna be putting in wildlife friendly fencing everywhere. That will allow the wildlife to still traverse the property, but still keep the cattle where the cattle are supposed to be. And so, you know, we're really excited about that. Some pollinator plants are going out there to help the bees, to help just everything out there, do some creek bank stabilization. We're going to kind of improve the habitat for the fish and allow people to fish out there on Big Goose, which will be really exciting to have.
Well, let's you touched base on a couple things. Let's talk about the creek stabilization. You know, Big Goose runs through our property, and I know that there's, you know, some of those big bends, there's erosion that happens every year. So how can you guys help with those things?
Yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of surveying out there to see what we can do to stabilize the creek to prevent that erosion. Now, some erosion is natural, but we want to ensure that the erosion that does happen is okay and it doesn't take away from the habitat of the fishery that's out there. And so by stabilizing the banks, we can improve the habitat for all these fishes and other aquatic species that are out there. And so we're really excited about that. As you know, there are so many deer out there and so many birds, and they all utilize that creek. And so it's very important to keep the waters clean and also ensure that they're there with a healthy habitat.
Well, you know, for us, we utilized the creek pasture, as we called it. It was my dad's horse pasture for years, and I know that there's been people, you know, oh my gosh, you have animals down there. They're defecating in the creek, and oh, it's not keeping it clean. But that's actually not true. I've never seen a horse of ours purposely do that in the creek. They do that over there, you know, but. How do you guys work with those people that utilize those pastures around the creek to benefit both? Right.
And, you know, another part to that too, besides just the drinking and you know, defecating by the creek bank, is also the erosion that's caused by livestock walking down to the creek bank. And so there's options to put fencing in there to control where the livestock are accessing the creek. That will prevent that excessive erosion and wetland deterioration from happening. And then if you can encourage livestock to just take the drink and then go elsewhere, by putting mineral blocks elsewhere in the pasture, that encourages them to just to drink there and then go yonder in the pasture to do the other things.
Do their business.
Yep.
So how does your organization maybe help with that? Do they help? You were talking about the wildland fencing and that kind of thing. I assume that's all kind of one, it all works together.
Yeah. So we do a lot of work with landowners on overall conservation concepts. You know, the NRCS and the Conservation District here in town, they are great, and they're such an amazing resource. We work with them all the time, and we're just trying to help the landowners maybe secure additional funding that would otherwise prevent them from doing any of these projects that will really help them with preserving and conserving their land. And so we go out there and we've been doing a lot of work with putting in wildlife fencing for a bunch of ranchers. And so we have a lot of volunteers that'll come out and remove the old fence for landowners that was less than ideal for wildlife. And then depending on the project, we go out and we'll seek funding from various sources to help contribute to putting in the wildlife friendly fencing. And so we really want to work with landowners to ensure that their needs are met, but we're also helping to keep the habitat open for wildlife going through. Another big project we've been working on is just wetland restoration. And so we're looking at, we've been utilizing some new technology. They're called Z-dikes. Simply put, it's strategically placed rocks along a creek where the creek is eroding away, or a watershed is happening with erosion there. And so they're called Z-dikes. I just like to say, well, they're strategically placed rocks is what they are. But we go out and we seek funding for that, and that will greatly improve the water retention in the soil in that drainage area. We completed a great project last summer, and we have another really big project along South Dry Creek this year that we're going to try to do this summer.
Well, there's a lot of waterfowl that ends up out on Big Goose. There always has been a lot of Canadian geese that come and nest there. Since we've moved our horses to another pasture, we have the ducks that have come in, which I just think ducks are cute. But the ducks come in. We've had wood ducks that have come in, and I didn't realize that they were that rare, but my husband was telling me, along with the mallards. And we feed quite a few 4-H calves at our house. And so they've made friends with the 4-H calves because they like to come up in their pen and help eat the grain out of the, I mean, the calves just allow them and the turkeys to just wander through their pen and hang out with them. And, so, is that, when you're talking about the wetlands, is that what you're trying to help preserve for the waterfowl and the fish and all that?
All those things, exactly right. Turkeys in some areas, with that wetland restoration, we can see beavers come back into the area to help manage to keep that water retention in that region, in that area. One project we've worked on is to really help with the wetland restoration that aids in the cottonwoods that are there. And so that's really inhabited by whitetail and mule deer. And so we're really excited about that, just kind of expanding that out. Every habitat that we can improve is just a benefit for all of us.
Making plans for building a new barn, shop, or commercial building? Don't do any planning without a call to Sheridan's premier post-frame building and homes builder, True Built Builders, online at truebuiltbuilders.com.
Well, I think you guys have a lot of great things going on down there.
Yeah.
And I know you guys have a website that has a lot of information. So be sure and check out your website, which is? SheridanCLT.org. Okay.
Yep.
And you were talking about volunteer opportunities.
Yeah.
So what are some of those opportunities, and how does one become a volunteer?
So in each of our program areas, we do utilize volunteers for a lot of things. And so on our website, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a button that says volunteer. You can click that, fill out your information. You can select one of the 3 areas you'd be interested in volunteering in. One of them is history, one of them is recreation, so the trails, and one of them is conservation. And there's so much information on the website about that, and it'll be great. And we get so many volunteers every year, and we couldn't do what we do without volunteers and donors. So we're so appreciative of all of them.
Right. Now, if I remember correctly, you guys, and I don't know if it was you, but Ian Wallace had invited me, and unfortunately we weren't able to make it, but you guys were part of a big celebration out there not too long ago, and had people out and a dinner, and that's I saw pictures and it looked like fun, and I'm so bummed we missed it.
Yeah, it was a great time. That was before my time at SCLT.
Oh, okay.
But I've heard all the stories. It was so much fun. They were cooking food all day long, not all day long, all afternoon long, and had music out there, which was awesome. It was our summer barbecue. That was the first summer we were out there on the property, and we're going to do it again this year. The date has not been set yet. So check the website, but it's going to be the same thing. Lots of food, lots of entertainment and music. And then this year, we're going to be giving a lot of tours of the entire property now that we own it, so people can come out and explore and experience everything we have going on out there. It's going to be a great time.
Well, I noticed driving by a few times that there was some buildings that were being torn down, which is great to see the land coming back. Not that it wasn't a nice building, but it's great to see it coming back to its natural landscape.
For sure. Yeah, the Scott Foundation, they own the rest of the land out there. It's under the name Bridges now. They have a lot of awesome plans out there for just an overall community space, which includes removing a lot of those buildings that were there, returning them to their native habitat, kind of like you were saying, and then opening it back up for the community with a lot of programs. So they've got a lot going on too on their side of the creek. We're on one side of the creek, they're on the other side of the creek. We work very closely with them, and they're just a great foundation. They have some great visions going forward as well.
Well, good. Well, is there anything else you want to share today while we've got a little bit of time here, or we kind of covered everything?
We covered everything. It was great.
It was awesome.
It was awesome.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And we'll have you back again. It's great to know what these programs that are available. And I hope that there's some folks that utilize them. I hope you get some more volunteers. And I look forward to coming down there and taking a tour of it when it gets all ready to go.
Fantastic. Come on down.
All right. Well, thanks for being good neighbors.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for our sponsorship from Heartland Kubota and True Built Builders. Without you guys, we can't do these podcasts. And check out SheridanMedia.com for more news, sports, and podcasts.